Part 1. When my landlady, Mrs. Evelyn Hart, called me upstairs one rainy evening, I expected something ordinary and mildly irritating. Maybe the sink again, or a reminder about keeping my shoes off the stairs. The house was old and narrow, the kind that creaked with opinions, and I'd learned to move quietly through it, grateful for cheap rent and anonymity. She lived on the top floor, where the ceiling sloped and the windows caught more sky than street. When I knocked, she opened the door already holding 2 cups of tea, steam curling upward like a question mark. She didn't smile right away. Instead, she stepped aside and let me in, as if she'd been waiting longer than just that evening. We sat at her small dining table. No television. No radio. Just the ticking clock and the rain tapping softly against the glass. She watched me the way people do when they are trying to decide whether to say something risky. I remember thinking she looked tired, not in a dramatic way, but in the quiet, long-term sense, like someone who'd been carrying the same weight for years and forgot what it felt like to put it down. "I'm cutting your rent in half," she said. The words didn't register at first. I laughed, a reflex more than a response, certain I'd misheard her. When I realized she was serious, my chest tightened. I started thanking her too quickly, already rehearsing promises about fixing things around the house, paying early, staying out of the way. She raised a hand gently. "There's something I need in return," she said. That was the moment my relief turned cautious. Not fear, just awareness. She met my eyes directly, no flirtation, no embarrassment. 10 minutes every night," she said. "After dinner. You come upstairs. We sit. We talk, or we don't. Then you go back to your room." I waited for the rest of the sentence. When it didn't come, I frowned. "That's it?" She nodded. "That's it." I hesitated, searching for the catch. She noticed and leaned back slightly. "Nothing improper," she added. "I won't touch you. You won't owe me anything beyond your presence. If you ever feel uncomfortable, we stop. No explanations." The offer was strange enough to feel unreal. But something about her tone, measured, honest, made it impossible to dismiss as a joke. I agreed before I'd fully thought it through, partly because I needed the money, and partly because something in me recognized the loneliness in her voice like a familiar language. That first night, I came upstairs at exactly 8. She was already seated, hands wrapped around her mug. The room smelled faintly of lavender and old books. We sat facing each other, unsure how to begin, like strangers sharing a train compartment. She asked where I was from. I told her. I asked about the house. She told me she'd lived there 20 years, raised a life inside its walls, and then slowly outlived the noise. The clock ticked loudly, each second suddenly important. When 10 minutes passed, she nodded and thanked me, as if I'd done her a favor instead of the other way around. The second night was easier. By the third, it was routine. No phones were allowed. She insisted on that rule early, saying screens were too good at stealing people away. Some nights we talked steadily, about work, about books, about how the city had changed. Other nights, we sat in silence, the kind that didn't feel awkward after a while. I learned things about her gradually. Her husband had died suddenly, years ago. Not dramatically, no long illness, no goodbye speeches. One morning he was there, the next he wasn't. Friends had shown up at first, then less often, then not at all. The house grew larger as her world shrank. She learned about me too. About the job I didn't love, the ambitions I kept postponing because survival was louder. About the way I stayed up too late, afraid of wasting time but unsure how to use it. She listened carefully, never interrupting, never trying to fix anything. That was the strange magic of those 10 minutes. Nothing needed to be solved. No one needed to impress. We weren't performing roles, landlady and tenant, older and younger. We were just 2 people sitting still long enough to be honest. Slowly, the house changed. Or maybe I did. The stairs felt less cold. The silence in my own room didn't press as hard against my chest. I noticed she laughed more, a soft sound that surprised even her. She started wearing brighter colors, not for me, I think, but because she remembered she could. One night, during a heavy storm, the power went out. We sat in candlelight, shadows moving gently across the walls. She told me she used to be afraid of nights like that. They remind you how alone you are, she said. Then she paused and added, or how connected you can be. I realized then that what she'd asked for wasn't company in the casual sense. It was witness. Someone to see her at the end of the day and not disappear. Someone to mark time with. As the weeks passed, the 10 minutes began to feel both shorter and more important. I found myself looking forward to them, not with anticipation, but with calm. They anchored my evenings. No matter how messy the day had been, there would be a moment of stillness waiting upstairs. And though neither of us said it out loud, I understood the truth of the arrangement. The rent reduction was just an excuse. What she really wanted couldn't be bought. It could only be shared.